I am Marcus Dixon with Gold Derby, and we are here with Christian Minkler, the Emmy-nominated sound mixer for The White Lotus on HBO. Christian, tell me about how you found out about the Emmy nomination this year.
This year, like last year, I found out through friends and colleagues. I was mixing that morning, so um, uh, I guess there was a certain time when they all dropped because my phone started ringing at the exact same time from several different people while I was mixing on the stage, and it was it's a great surprise whenever you hear that.
Yeah, and last year you were also nominated, and last year it was in the limited series category. This year,
Correct.
your nomination is for drama/comedy. And tell us about the nomination last year. Did you go to the ceremony? What do you remember most about that night?
Yeah, the ceremony, we went last year. It was great. It was my first time at the primetime Emmys, and it was a great experience. It happened to be, I think, the hottest day in LA on record. That was one of the things I remember the most. But it it was fun to see everybody, all my colleagues, my friends that were the fellow nominees.
Hmm.
It was nice to see how they incorporated the show with how it's with with the main telecast. Here in LA. It was at the what venue was it at? It was at it
Is
was
it
downtown at
is it the Microsoft Theater
the
or
Microsoft Theater. It was my first time at the awards at the Microsoft Theater. It was a great experience to see everyone there.
And this year you are nominated for the specific episode Arrivederci, the season 2
Right.
finale. And for everyone that doesn't know, you have to kind of pick an episode for the judges to watch and judge. What was it about this episode that you thought would be a strong submission?
It was it's the final episode of the season, and if you're familiar with the series, it sort of builds up to the final episode where kind of everything is revealed of the series, and we felt it was just the strongest sound wise, and it kind of encompassed everything that we'd done all year and kind of all came together in the final episode.
Hmm. And the perhaps biggest scene in that finale was when Tanya dies, Emmy winner Jennifer Coolidge. What can you tell us about your specific sound mixing work in her death scene?
It was it was supposed to be all the way up until the reveal of her death was kind of, how is this going to happen? And really, a lot of people didn't really know, was she going to die? No one really knew at that point. So we didn't really want to there weren't any tells that were obvious, but so we kind of just played it normal all the way up until, without any sort of to lead the audience that this was going to happen. In fact, I don't think we played any music for the several minutes up until her death, just to not create the extra drama, perhaps, or to, like I said, not to say, hey, this is coming up, and hopefully it would come across that way to the audience, that it was just a surprise to everybody as it was to us.
And what about when she's kind of floating under the water? Did you do any specific, sound design work for that scene?
Yeah, there was a lot of sound design, and there was a sound where sound design and music kind of came together. It was sort of one became the other. It was supposed to be a emotional moment, and that's how we try to come across with how we integrated the sound design with the music. It was where one ends and the other begins was supposed to be. And hopefully, we got across that way of sort of, it sort of blended together nicely to create that emotion.
And do you remember what was just your personal reaction when you found out she would be the one dying? Were you just completely shocked? I'm sure you read it in the script long before everyone else.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, uh, I think it was kind of bittersweet. It's kind of, you want to have a character like that kind of keep going, but emotionally, to have your major character in a series go, I think, that's Mike's way of maybe giving someone a send off, so to speak. You know, it's obviously she's a beloved character in the series, and she was the only one, maybe out of two, to come back from season one. So you know, this is maybe a fitting departure for her. I'm not sure how to describe that or get in Mike's head about why her. I'm not sure, but
Let's talk about Mike White, the showrunner and the writer, the director, the producer. He has a very specific vision for the White Lotus. It's very much his baby. What's he like as a collaborator, someone to work with each week?
Mike is great. Mike, he and I first worked together. I think it was in '08 we first collaborated, and then we got together on season one. And Mike's he's a very trusting person, so he allows us to have our ideas and take the show into a direction that we might want to go. But at the same time, he's very focused on what he wants. He very detailed in what his vision, and we follow that map. But at the same time, we'll say, hey, let's experiment with this, and he'll like it or not. But you know, he'll take bits and pieces of our collaboration and use it. But he's very focused and very deep, very set. I don't want to say set in his ways, but he has his idea and of how he wants it to come across. And his trust in us of giving it to him is what allows us to do what we do, really. And we present it, and he signs off on it. But it is a process, you know. We're with our he does all of his posts out of his cutting room in Hawaii. So a lot of our playbacks are through streaming or over online, and we do one for him and one day, and then we'll come back the next day and do it again. And it's definitely a process, is what I could say. It's one of those things where especially with the music, it is, you know, to the DB, we got to get it in the right spot, fit it in the right pocket. And but he gives us plenty of time to accomplish it.
The music composer Cristobal, what is your working relationship like with him? You've mentioned that a lot of your jobs is mixing his dramatic score with some of the other sound.
Right. Cristobal he's a brilliant composer. His tracks come in very full. And again, with Mike, they give me a lot of latitude of how to again, following their idea, but how to mix the different instruments in his score, different places. And we do mix it in an Atmos format. So a lot of times, if you're fortunate enough, you could see it in the full surround environment. And I'm able to place Cristobal's score in move it around the room, so to speak, and give it a lot of life. I know that doesn't translate very well if you're watching it on a TV or maybe on headphones, but if you are fortunate to watch it in a 5.1 or an immersive environment, it is the perfect score to really experience what his music can provide in a Atmos format.
Did you also work on the theme song for season 2?
We remixed it. Cristobal delivered a different mix for it, but yeah, I was able to shape it in a certain way to give it its own personality for season 2, as we did for season 1. Season 1 definitely had its own vibe to it, and season 2 had its own vibe to it. You know, different location or different instruments, but I was able, you know, Cristobal sends it in a certain way, but again, I'm able to adjust it to fit a Atmos environment.
It's one of the best theme songs on television. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've listened to it over and over and over.
It's a lot of fun. It really is. It like I said, all these little instruments that he uses and these little pieces of percussion and little things he uses that I'm able to place in certain areas of the room. It's a lot of fun to mix.
Another big scene in the finale was between Ethan and Cameron in the ocean, where they fight each other. You know, this whole season has been building up to this fight. They're played by Will Sharp and Theo James. I imagine anytime nature gets in the way, such as ocean waves, does that create any
Yeah.
extra challenges for the sound mixing department?
You know, it does. For in the dialogue recordings, it was difficult, but we were able to do uh, a great job of cleaning it up. And Catherine Matson, who was the supervising sound editor, and her team did a great job of preparing the tracks for me. And again, but Ryan Collins, who was the effects mixer on this season, who also mixed with me on season one, he did an outstanding job with that scene. That was it was one of the more difficult, not difficult, but challenging scenes for him to do. Definitely the most fun of the, and especially again in an immersive environment, immersive sound environment. Ryan's mix, I think, came across incredible through that scene. It was a lot of work, and he did a really great job at it.
The White Lotus has an enormous, passionate fan base out there.
Yeah.
Are you constantly surprised by just how much they love your show and how much they post about it and create memes about it?
You know, I'm not surprised, because we all kind of felt the same way when we first saw it. So I'm happy that it came across to the fans as well as it did with us. But I'm not really surprised. Mike does a great job with his writing and connecting to really emotions and characters. He's really a brilliant character writer, and just a brilliant craftsman of you know of the genre. He just really he really brings across his characters. So across that, I don't think I see how you couldn't like it. I mean, that's just
Mhm.
my opinion, my
Yeah.
humble opinion. But so I'm glad it does come across the same way to the audience and to
And the
fans.
fact that it reinvents itself every year with a new cast. I mean, I can imagine
Right.
this show going on for 20 years or so. Speaking of, the future, all we know about season 3 is, very little. It's going to be set in Thailand. It's going to have an Asian theme. Is there anything you can share with us at all?
It really isn't. I don't know much more than you do. And even if I did, I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you. But I don't know. I don't really know much more than that. I know that I think with the climate in Hollywood, I think the strike has delayed a lot of things. And um, but I don't know any more than of
Mhm.
season 3 of what's going to happen. But what I don't know, especially, is how Mike can continue to come up with certain um different you take different, like 6 different storylines in each episode, and have how you come up with 6 different experiences, and how he has that much more in him, I don't know. But
Mhm.
to be inside the mind of Mike White, I guess that's a whole other thing, how he's going to come up with it. I'm just as curious as most fans.
And when you look back at season 2 as a whole, do you have just a moment that you're just so proud of in terms of the work that you and your team did on the show?
I don't want to sound cliche, but it is the whole show. Because we start with a show like Lotus, how it's a continuous storyline. It's really how it builds from episode 1 through episode 7. Yeah, episode 7 this season, and how we were able to have the storyline flow all the way through, and to have it be continued, really, without creating the build that we wanted to, and seeing it all at the end. That was really it was challenging to make it seem like a continuous piece. And then when you see it, then okay, it really, it came out. So Lotus as a episode to episode, obviously we very proud of it, but having the thread just stay continuous from 1 to 7 the way we did, I think that's what I'm most proud about.
Well, before I let you go, I see you were nominated at the Oscars for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Uh-huh.
What was that moment like? We're big awards fans at Gold Derby, so I love hearing
Uh,
about Academy Awards and everything.
that was a trip, man. That was that was my first nomination, as you mentioned. But I had been to the awards before as just a spectator, and but this takes it to a whole different, it's a whole different experience. The red carpet, um, you know, standing next to Brad Pitt and Leo, as if you're equal to them. Obviously not, but right on the red carpet with them, and moving on. it's something that, you know, you remember forever, and hopefully, you know, we get to do it again. But the Emmys are just as wonderful. You know, anytime I go into a situation where someone appreciates my work, invites me to these ceremonies, you know, it's very humbling and satisfying.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today, Christian, and best of luck
Mhm.
at the Emmy Awards.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.